Hello everybody and welcome to Couch Gaming's first episode of what I'm going to call the CouchCast. I'm Jason, I'll be your host. It's mostly going to be a solo cast for right now, but I want the audience to be like my co-host. So send all your questions or any topics you want to talk about to facebook.com/couch1gaming or just leave them in the comments section of the YouTube page. And what you can guess at by the name of the show is we're a show about couch gaming, whether it's PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo, whether it be handheld or console, we're going to cover it. But first, I'd like for you guys to get to know me a little bit better. So I'm going to give you what I'd like to call my gaming story. Pretty much just like a background of where I started up until pretty much now, of everything that I've played and the systems that I've owned. It probably started with the Atari, but my first real love for gaming probably started when my parents first got me the Nintendo. I remember playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, RC Pro-Am, Super Mario Brothers. That's when I knew that gaming was something that I was really interested in. I remember reading Nintendo Power and EGM, like cover to back, and then them showing like pictures for this new Nintendo system that was coming out, and like seeing the graphics on this Super Mario World game and thinking, this is amazing. And I even got Final Fight before I even had the Super Nintendo, and when I did open the Super Nintendo on Christmas, it was just like, oh my god. This is unbelievable. Games like Mario Kart, Contra 3, Super Castlevania, the Ninja Turtles games. I went crazy over the Ninja Turtles games. I remember playing games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 in the arcades, and then hearing that they were going to come to the Super Nintendo. I remember reading those magazines like 100 times, every little preview they've had of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, until we finally got a hold of those games on the Super Nintendo and was just going crazy over them. And you can't forget about The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. What can you say about that? That's probably in my top 10 games of all time, probably. I mean, I played the first one, and I liked it a lot. It was just, I was really young. It was kind of hard still, but I still liked it. The second one, I'm not a huge fan of Zelda 2, but when I got my hands on A Link to the Past, I knew that this was something special. That opening of the game still gets me. With these rains pouring down, you follow your uncle to the castle, and it was like the first game I really remember of like, it's telling me a story. It's a near perfect game in my eyes, pretty much. And then I was on to the Genesis, really. That was mostly like kind of like my first like secondary console that I had. I mostly just played like the Sonic games. I thought they were really good at the time. Now, I mean, they really haven't aged all that well. The Streets of Rage and stuff like that, Road Rash. But you know, at heart, I was still a Nintendo guy. But that all started to change once I started reading about this new Sony PlayStation system that was coming out. I remember growing up, my friend Tom, his birthday was a month before mine, and he went out and got the Sega Saturn. And I was just like, dude, why did you get the Sega Saturn? We used to have fun joking around with each other. He had the Saturn, I had the PlayStation. I had gotten the PlayStation a month after his birthday, for my birthday. And that was the first, like, our first console wars. We were going at it about. It was pretty fun. I think I remember getting it with Mortal Kombat 3 and I think NBA in the Zone. I was just like mesmerized by the cover of NBA in the Zone. I thought like the players looked like totally lifelike. I remember they used to say on the back of the memory card, save your game anywhere. So I thought, oh man, with this like memory card, we could be playing a match in Mortal Kombat and just save it right in the match. But it didn't exactly work like that. And those big ass cases for the PlayStation games. Call me crazy, but I wouldn't mind having some of those for these newer games we have now. But I probably, if I had them, I'd be regretting them. But it just made the games feel like they were like special. You went from like the cardboard stuff of like the Super Nintendo to these like pristine big ass like jewel cases. Then they switched back to like the regular just like CD size cases. Just going through this PlayStation lineup of games, and they just had a fucking badass lineup. Games like Twisted Metal, the Resident Evil games, Crash Bandicoot, Tomb Raider, Final Fantasy VII, Tony Hawk, Street Fighter. That's just a blockbuster ass lineup. The sports games, NFL Game Day. I think that was the first one that was like first like 3D football game. pretty badass. Fucking Metal Gear Solid. I remember getting Metal Gear Solid, and I think it was the official PlayStation magazine, the demo. It was in Japanese. It just blew my mind. I couldn't believe I was playing something like this. But the PlayStation was just like, we were going from like Super Nintendo to PlayStation. Most of these games it was like new experiences, because these were like grown up or more mature type games than what you used to playing on Super Nintendo. It was just like a whole new level of gaming, pretty much. And then comes the Nintendo 64. We had this little shop, pretty much like the next town over, I think it was called Microplay. They sold mostly new games, used games. It was a little mom and pop shop, but they had a lot of Japanese imports. And I remember them getting the Nintendo 64 imported from Japan and having Mario 64 on display. And I just couldn't believe what I was playing. Couldn't believe how well it controlled. The graphics were fucking amazing. And I think that summer I had probably like my first summer job. I think I was like working at like a gas station or something. That's really dating myself. I think I saved up to buy the 64. And with Mario and Pilot Wings, I think, were the only two games that it launched with. Talk about a small lineup of games there, yeah. And I think Wave Race came out. Wave Race came out that December, I think. I fucking loved Wave Race. I'd buy a brand new Nintendo system right now if they would like remaster Wave Race or even make a new Wave Race. 64 was pretty much just like the party console. Like when you had sleepovers, everybody'd get together and then you just pop in whatever the latest multiplayer game that was out on Nintendo 64. Whether it be Star Fox, GoldenEye, Mario Kart, even like shitty ass Hexen. I remember we were stealing like our parents' like whatever alcohol they had and playing Hexen. Yeah, that wasn't really a great game, but no, we still had some fun with it. I think that was like the first Nintendo system where it was like you'd had really good games, but you had quite big gaps in between them. Really, it seemed like. So we always kind of just went back to PlayStation, on a regular basis, because it seemed like PlayStation was still getting more regular releases than the Nintendo 64 was. I think after that, I bought a Japanese Dreamcast from that same store, Microplay, that I played that Mario 64 on first. And Dreamcast just had a really good launch lineup. I think House of the Dead, Sega Rally. It was funny because I bought the Japanese Dreamcast, and then they released the U.S. version, and I was like, "Damn, what the hell am I gonna do with this Japanese Dreamcast?" I don't think I did, at that time. I think the mod wasn't out yet, so I think I went to like Target. I hope this doesn't get me in any trouble right now. I think I went to Target and bought a U.S. Dreamcast, and then went back like an hour later and put my Japanese Dreamcast in the box and was like, "Oh yeah, I can't really afford this. I just want to return it." So then I had a U.S. Dreamcast. But I think I pretty much sold that maybe like a year down the road, even though I had really good games. But once the PS2 came out, I mean, it was pretty much over with for the Dreamcast. I think the PS2 was the first system I waited in line for overnight. I didn't get it pre-ordered. I think I went to Target and camped out with just a whole bunch of random people. I mean, that's just such an awesome experience when you get when the new consoles come out. Just like waiting in line and just talking to other people about like you're all hyped up and ready for what you're gonna play. It's definitely something you gotta experience at least once. Then I think I remember getting home, going to sleep, waking up the next morning, and I think I played some Tekken Tag, Time Splitters. Madden was really good, but there just wasn't that that standout game for at PS2's launch, really, that just knocked your socks off. Not till at least I can remember, at least the next year with what the hell was it? Was it GTA? Yeah, it was. I think GTA 3. Yeah, 2001 was a fucking blockbuster year for games for PS2. GTA 3, Final Fantasy X, Metal Gear Solid 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, Devil May Cry, Gran Turismo 3, NBA Street, Twisted Metal Black. The SmackDown game was awesome. Onimusha. That is a fucking lineup of games. You'd be hard pressed to see a better year for games than that right there. Not to mention the GameCube and Xbox launched that year. Games like Wave Race Blue Storm, Luigi's Mansion, Star Wars Rogue Leader, or Rebel Assault, one of those fucking Star Wars games. Halo. I think I bought the GameCube first that year because I wasn't a believer in Xbox. You know, they were the new guys on the block. I'm like, oh, fuck them. I'm getting the GameCube. And then that all changed once I played Halo. I remember going to a buddy's house and playing 4-player split-screen Halo, Slayer. And I was just amazed at how good this game was. And that's pretty much where my gaming story takes a curve. I was more of an Xbox guy then. Pretty much everything that was available, I got it on Xbox because most of the time it ran better. And they even had, some exclusives that weren't even on PlayStation, like the KOTOR games. The Splinter Cell games ran better. They had Doom on there. Wolfenstein. Halo 2. The Halo 2 launch was like this huge event. It was the first, time that a Halo game was online. Even though, I kind of rigged up my computer to play the original Halo a little bit online, but this was the first Halo on Xbox Live. I just remember playing it, and I wanted all my games to be online. I put so many hours into Halo 2. Online, I beat the campaign a couple times, and that pretty much just cemented Halo as, my go-to franchise right there. So, it was a no-brainer when they announced the 360. I was like, all right, I'm getting this for sure. I remember camping out for that too. But same with the PS2. It didn't launch with really that. It launched with some pretty good games. Perfect Dark was okay. Call of Duty 2 was good, but they weren't Halo 2. So I remember playing Halo 2 all the way up until pretty much Gears of War came out. The start of the second year of Xbox 360. Gears was really that whoa moment. This is next gen. This is stuff that couldn't be done on the regular Xbox. Gears, it was Gears, Halo, Gears, Halo. It was, if I wasn't playing Gears, I was playing Halo. And pretty much that became my second, favorite franchise then. Then when Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare came out, I was mostly a shooter guy. I either had a Halo, a Call of Duty, or Gears in the rotation, mixed with a sports game here and there. But it was one of those three franchises that I was always playing, along with games like Forza, the Fable series, GTA 4, a lot of the downloadable stuff on 360. Shadow Complex, that game was fucking great. Mass Effects. BioShock, I loved the first two BioShock games, were fantastic. The story in the first one is unbeatable, but the second one is a pretty strong contender. I like that one a lot better than BioShock Infinite. BioShock Infinite. Even looking back, there's still a ton of stuff on 360 that I didn't even play. It's just a lot of these remasters that they're releasing now. They don't really bother me too much because some of the stuff I haven't even played. There's just too many games to play all of them at once. Especially since I had a PS3 and a Wii. But mostly I just use those for the first party stuff. The Mario Galaxy games on Wii, the Zelda games, Metroid, Wii Sports. Just I never really played much third third party stuff on Wii. I guess that was one of its big problems. I guess they didn't third parties, they didn't really sell too much. PS3, single PS3, really third party stuff I played on there, but mostly just the Uncharted games, God of War, Warhawk. I loved Warhawk and Starhawk. I thought those games were incredible. I would kill for another one of those. But in the end, it all came down to Halo, and that was my favorite franchise. So when it was time to choose between the Xbox One and the PS4, it really was a no-brainer for me at the time. I mean, I had my Xbox, green colored glasses on, and I was sold on the all-in-one entertainment box with Kinect. I was sold on the whole, I wanted to see what they were going to do with their whole DRM, proposal, their original idea for the Xbox One, to go, put your discs in, download the game, get rid of the discs. I wanted to see what they were going to do with it, so I was a little disappointed when they went back on all that stuff. But it turned out for the better, because they would have been toast if they would have just stuck to that original idea. That message in the beginning, that just killed them for this generation. There's people now who my brother was debating on getting a PS4 or Xbox One, and just recently, and he was like, "Well, I heard they have all these restrictions," and I'm like, "Oh my God, the average consumer doesn't even know. They hear something from 2 years ago and it just sticks in their head." But yeah, when that E3 of 2013, when they unveiled, both consoles, or I guess shortly before that, but when they showed what games were coming out, I mean, I thought the Xbox's lineup, for me personally, I was more interested in their lineup that year. With Dead Rising. I loved Dead Rising. I thought it was awesome. Forza was, good. It was really good. I mean, they had the microtransactions in there and a lot less content, but I thought the core game was pretty good. And what else? Rise. I thought Rise was a decent game. It was really good looking, and it was an alright game. So I was like, hey, I'm getting Xbox One at launch. Plus, they had Titanfall. I think Titanfall sold a lot of people Xbox Ones that might not have picked one up. It was from the guys from Call of Duty 4. It had big robots, wall running. It was a system seller for me too. The problem with Titanfall was it suffered so much from the hype. There was so much of a hype buildup of hype that when the game came out, there just really wasn't that much there. I think probably a few weeks before the game out, they released a beta. I think I played like 10 hours that weekend of the beta, and then when the full game came out, I played probably like another 15, and I was like, man, there's just not a whole lot here for me to keep doing. There's not a big progression system at all. There's only a couple of modes, and it's it's multiplayer only. I think you started seeing quite a bit more games like Titanfall and then Forza 5 that were just like less bang for your buck. Kind of started off like a little bit of a trend, then followed with like Evolve, games like that. But I think we're starting to get a little bit past that and get some more meatier experiences for $60 now. I think that first year the Xbox One was out, I think I probably played more of my 3DS and Wii U. Stuff like Pikmin 3, I love that game. A Link Between Worlds, that's probably one of my top 3 games of that year. Mario Kart. So, I mean, I played my Wii U and 3DS just as much as my Xbox One. But the thing with the Wii U was it suffered the same thing, that the Nintendo 64 did. There's just way too much time between big releases. So eventually I didn't see the value of keeping it around anymore. I love the Nintendo games, don't get me wrong. They're just so fantastic, but I just felt that like I would get more value by getting trading that in and getting a PS4. I missed out on the PS4 is just dropping games. They just throw games at you left and right. Tons of little indie games that are fantastic. And like a lot of the stuff from PS3 that I missed. It was getting re-released on PS4. So I think in January this year, I sold my Wii U, bought a PS4. So that's basically what I've been doing most of this year, is just catching up on PlayStation stuff that I missed out on. Infamous First Light, Last of Us Remastered, what a fucking amazing experience. Bloodborne, that my first time with a Souls game. That game's great. Easily top 3, probably number 2 next to Batman so far this year for me. Little stuff like Helldivers, Hotline Miami, Rogue Legacy. So that's pretty much my gaming story. Now I'd like to get into what I'm playing now. A little bit of Rocket League. That game is super fun. Super fun. I'm just mostly just playing like a single player season, really. As if I go online, I'll probably get my ass kicked. But yeah, I played a little bit of that. I finished Journey. I got a few more Let's Plays of Journey to put up on the YouTube channel. Far Cry 4. I've been playing a little bit of that. I did a couple of Fun with Far Cry videos, which I had some fun with. But with that game, God, it's so frustrating. It's just like every other Ubisoft game. You get up there, you get to a certain point, you get a certain amount of the map open up, and they just fucking throw all this little bullshit on the map. Collectibles up the ass here and there. I just get overwhelmed that I'm at the point where like I don't even know if I want to play it anymore. It's just aggravating. So I think I might be done with that, which is all right. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to go back to in the backlog. Dying Light, I'm gonna do some of that. Infamous. There's a few Xbox One games that I haven't played. Rayman Legends, I think that was one of the Games of Gold games I still have to play. Game of Thrones series. The Wolf Among Us, I got that on PS4. Stuff to play that. So, I mean, I've got a ton of stuff to play. Oh, yeah, and Batman. I think I'm at like 85-90% in the story in Batman. Like 70 to 75% overall. I want to 100% that game, get the full ending. But I just stopped playing it because once they announced that new skin pack that's coming in August, I was like, well, I want to see I want to have something to play with these new skins, so I'm gonna hold off on that, and I'll come back later. And then they released the Batgirl DLC, which I thought was really, really good. It was just a little short. I like what they had. I love the interaction with Batgirl and Robin. I thought it was really cool. I think they're more interesting characters than Batman is. I'd love for just a whole game with a whole Batgirl / Robin game. I think it'd be a little bit more interesting than Batman. I think I'll probably put another video out once that next DLC pack comes out in August. I think they got a couple races with the '89 Batmobile, so I'll probably put that up and do a Let's Play of that. And maybe when they release the other story missions, I'll probably do some of those story missions. Let's play those story missions. But I guess what I'm going to try and do probably is do one new game maybe, and then one older game probably in the Let's Plays. We'll see how that works out, because next couple weeks are a little slow, but end of August we're going to just start getting hit with games coming out. So we'll see how well that philosophy holds up. That Until Dawn comes out towards the end of the month. That looks kind of interesting. That'd be pretty good for a couple Let's Plays of that. Then Madden's coming out. Disney Infinity 3.0. I've never played any of the Disney Infinity games, but since this one, they seem pretty popular, and since this one seems like Star Wars, what the hell? It's a good enough time as ever to get in right now. Then in September, I think we got stuff like Tony Hawk 5. Fun little story about Tony Hawk. I think when it was Tony Hawk 3 was out, Hollywood Video had this other separate store inside of them called Game Crazy, and they sold new, used games and systems and stuff. And I don't know if it was nationally, but it was just in the Chicagoland area. They had like this Tony Hawk 3 tournament going on, and so I think I went to like 8 different stores. Like it was like one run for your highest score, and I think I probably won the high score in like 5 or 6 of the stores, and like first prize was a game. So I think I like came away with like 6 copies of Halo that day and just traded them in for I don't know what the hell I ended up buying. But yeah, there's gonna be a ton of stuff coming out to talk about and do Let's Plays on, and I'm even open for recommendations. If you want to leave recommendations in the comments section or on the Facebook page, I'm open to playing almost anything really. But I think that's gonna do it for this show. Next week I'm gonna have some reactions for Gamescom. And then I want to talk about an article on Games Radar by Justin Towell, I think it is. I probably butchered that, but it's called "This Share Button is This Generation's Defining Feature." Thought it was a really interesting article. So we're going to talk about that and more of what I'm playing. I think Galaxy comes out this week, so I'll probably talk about that. But I think that's going to be a show. Thanks for listening. Remember, you can find us at facebook.com/couch1gaming. Give us some likes there. Like, subscribe to the channel. It's only going to help the channel grow and get better. So, once again, thank you. We'll see you next week.